Hi there, this is Kay Eichler with the Early Childhood team. Welcome to our Back to School webinar number 1, the first in a series of 2 webinars for lead agencies. Today we have several things we want to discuss. We'll be talking about policy updates, resources for lead agencies, and action items. I want to first talk with you about policy changes that are effective August 20th. If you recall, during the March collaboration meetings, we came to you with policy changes that were proposed and were being taken to the state board in April. Well, the board approved those policy changes. They've been advertised for the mandatory 90-day period in the Louisiana Register, and they will go into effect August 20th. The first of these changes is that sites with an overall performance profile rating below 3.75 will be required to participate in improvement planning with department staff. We will be working directly with low-scoring sites on plans to improve their classroom quality. We will keep lead agencies in the loop for any activity that's going on in their community. There are also observation requirements for infant classrooms that are being gradually phased in. So for the coming year, 2018-2019, infant classrooms must be located and documented in the class online system, and lead agencies must begin adding capacity to observe. You can enter all infant classrooms, all infant observations in the class portal without any influence to your 18-19 performance ratings, shadow score completion, or observer reliability. In other words, the system is open for you to track infant observation data, but we will also ignore that data when we calculate results for observations and when we track your shadow score completion percentages and observer reliability. So in essence, 2018-2019 is a get-ready year. So the next year, 2019-2020, all infant classrooms must be observed using the infant tool, but results will not be included in a site's overall rating that will be released in the fall of 2020. So again, in 1920, you're required to observe all infant classrooms, but those results will not be included in a site's overall rating. In 2020-2021, infant observation results will be included in the rating system and reported on performance profiles in the fall of 2021. So just as a note for you, we will be providing an opt-in form for sites who would like to receive third-party observations beginning this fall. And we will try to conduct as many of those as we can. There are also some more specific rules now for mixed age classrooms. In mixed age infant toddler classrooms, use the toddler tool when the classroom is at least half toddler aged children. In mixed toddler pre-K classrooms, use the pre-K tool when the classroom is at least half pre-K aged children. In mixed infant, toddler, and pre-K classrooms, use the toddler tool when the classroom has no clear majority age. And finally, in pre-K kindergarten classrooms, use the pre-K tool when the classroom is at least half pre-K or if the classroom receives early childhood funding. Next up, a new 5th level for performance profiles. So this will be added for the 2018-2019 performance profiles that will be released in the fall of 2019, a full year away. A 5th level that differentiates higher performing proficient sites will be incorporated. This new level is called High Proficient, and you can see where it fits in the class score range on the chart below. And there are 3 other additional changes for accountability. The first of those is that when atypical practices are encountered during an observation, the department may use ones, reobserve, or take other steps to ensure typical experiences are observed. What exactly does that mean, atypical practices? For example, there might be an instance where a classroom typically has 13 children. But when the observer arrives for the observation, there are only 8 children in the classroom. The 5 other children have been removed to another area in the building or another classroom and aren't available to participate with their peers during the observation. There might also be an instance where a lead teacher who is typically in that classroom is not there. Perhaps the director has stepped in and states that she is normally the lead teacher. Any instance that does not reflect a child's typical experience in a classroom is going to be considered atypical practices. The new policy updates also allow the use of 1 semester of scores in the event of a natural disaster. Informational metrics can now be collected as of February 1st for classrooms opened between October 1st and February 1st, which are observed for the profile. And we do have a new pre-K eligibility threshold. The new pre-K eligibility threshold will streamline eligibility determination and provide access for more children. So effective August 20th, eligibility for pre-K programs aligns with the K-12 definition of economically disadvantaged, which includes Medicaid eligibility, 200% of the federal poverty level, thus enabling more simple and streamlined processes for eligibility. We would like you to use the link shown here to respond by October 1st to this brief survey about how the new eligibility guidelines are being implemented in your community. We've also grouped together resources for lead agencies. Here are class resources, and we'll go over them, and then I'll go to their respective sites on the department's website. So the Early Childhood Class Observation System User Guide provides detailed information for setting up the class portal, scheduling observations, and entering observation data. We also have on-demand, self-paced class observation system training in the form of webinar decks for observers, site coordinators, and lead agencies that were designed by the department's early childhood team. The class appeal form is to be downloaded and used to appeal local scores, third-party scores, or a replacement score where a local observation was not conducted. So a note about class appeals. We would like to have you send in these appeal forms with all appropriate documentation throughout the year. But we do not process them until July the 1st. The reason we would like for you to send them in is because it gives us an opportunity to review them as they come in. To assure that all appropriate documentation is attached. And all of that is collected while the situation is fresh on your mind. Everything is assembled and ready to review during our appeal review process. The class observation system correction form can be downloaded and used throughout the year to correct errors in the class observation system. Observers submit this form to early childhood at la.gov. Class Compass Guidance. This is information for districts about the choice to use class as an option to evaluate professional practice. And finally, the Class Third-Party Observation Guide gives you information about the third-party observation process used to audit local class observation systems. It also contains guidance for local protocols. Here we've collected information about meetings and webinars, just a few highlights. The weekly webinar conference call for lead agencies is held most Tuesdays at 3 p.m. and you can add that invitation to your calendar. It contains the webinar access information. So you should have received that from me. If you don't have it, just send me an email and I'll make sure that you get it. The department holds quarterly collaboration meetings. Those are scheduled for September, November, January, and March. The dates and locations are in the school system support calendar. And I want to point out that the Teacher Leaders Summit for 2019 is scheduled for July 23rd through 26th. This is later than it typically occurs. It's usually been held at the end of May, 1st of June. For the 2019 year, it's been moved toward the end of July. This is a nationally recognized opportunity for professional development and networking. I think for early childhood, last year was one of the best years we've ever had with close to 70 sessions. Most of those sessions presented by your peers, other lead agencies, teachers from classrooms, just a really dynamic group of presentations. Also very inspiring and a wonderful opportunity for any teacher or supervisor to attend. And finally, we have 3 action items noted for you. We would like you immediately to have all of your program partners look at School and Center Finder to ensure that their site information is correct. For schools, if that information needs to be corrected, folks should go through their data coordinator for their LEA. For licensed centers, corrections are made in the CAFE system by the center owner or director. So in essence, what this is saying is information in School Finder is pulled from the sponsor site database for schools, and it's pulled from the CAFE system for child care centers. And that is where corrections need to be made, and we would like for all corrections to be made as soon as possible so that the systems are ready for performance profiles. Again, that eligibility implementation survey, please respond by October 1st so that we can get an idea of how that new eligibility requirement is being implemented. This is a very brief survey. It will probably take you 30 seconds to complete, but we do know that some of you had already filled your classes with the 185% federal poverty level children, and you probably won't be implementing the new 200% level this year. We'd like to know that. And if you will be, we'd also like to know that. So take a few seconds and complete that survey by October 1st. Also want to point out that local protocol for class observations should be submitted by October 1st. So all of the information in this webinar was included in the back to school mail out that was sent to you on Tuesday, August 7th. This webinar is simply a review of that information, and we hope that it's been helpful. Now at this point, I would like to show you the links. So I'm pausing this desktop sharing, and I am going to see if I can go in. And so just to go through some of the links that were in the webinar, this is the link through SurveyMonkey to the eligibility implementation survey. So we'd like you to go to that link, complete this survey. Here's the link that takes you directly to the Early Childhood Class Observation System User Guide. So you can see that this was updated earlier this month. This has all of the information that you need to understand the class portal and how to use it. Here's the Early Childhood web portal, that home screen. This is where that link takes you, where you simply sign in with your email and password. An example of the online training, here is that webinar that is linked in this PowerPoint, also in the newsletter that you received. This is the specific example of the PowerPoint for observers that outlines all of the observer expectations and gives you great detail. So this is good for any new observer, also a refresher for current observers. Here is the the class observation system correction form, error correction form. Compass choices. So for school districts that are considering using class for Compass, this outlines the differences in the two and gives you some additional information. Here's the recently updated third-party observation guide. This gives you the requirements for third-party observers. We often get questions concerning, well, what kind of background do they have to have? What kind of experience do they have to have? This lists all of the requirements for a third-party observer, what to expect the day of the class observation, what notification from the P-Card Center looks like, what feedback looks like. So this probably would be a good link to provide to your program partners. Their teachers might also want to look at it as well. Finally, let's look at the calendar that's linked for the quarterly collaboration events. So this calendar nicely lays out everything that goes on for school systems each year. And so if we roll down and look at September, we'll see that there are actually 2 collaboration events in Baton Rouge that month. So you could pick to attend either the 10th or the 17th in Baton Rouge. You could attend September 13th in Harvey, or September 18th in Ruston. And finally, the link to the School Finder, where we want all of your program partners as soon as possible to check their information for accuracy and make any corrections needed. So that concludes our Back to School webinar. Thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me.